gearnetwork.com.
This is a Gear Network production.
Hey everyone, you like the music that you hear? Whether it's a background music on the commercial, a selection from either Brandon or myself on Football Talk Weekly, myself on TJCMS, or maybe the Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast, folks, played a wrestling theme that you just dig and you want to hear over and over and over again. Well, I'll tell you what, Gear Network can hook you up with Amazon Music Unlimited 30-day free trial. You can listen to tens of millions of songs, any song, anywhere, with new releases from today's most popular artist. You can listen to it ad-free with unlimited skips. And the best part, the most awesome part, you can save that data if you're still on one of them tiered data plans like I am. You can download it for offline listening. Better yet, if you have Amazon Echo at home, because I know you do, you can just ask Alexa to play whatever song you want, and they'll do it for you, just like that. It's kind of crazy. After the 30-day trial, you're really going to like this. The price for this is amazing. $7.99 a month or $79 a year for an individual plan for Prime members, or $14.99 a month, $149 a year for a family plan for Prime members. Or if you just want to go with just the Echo, because you like the Echo, you have the Echo at your house, and you want to just do an Echo plan, hey, $3.99 a month. You can't go wrong there. If you're also a student, you get a discount as well. Head to gearnetwork.com. On the top bar, it says support the shows. Under Shop Amazon, you will find the Amazon Music Unlimited free trial link right there, and you can click that and sign up for a free 30-day trial of Amazon Music Unlimited. This podcast does receive a special bonus if you do sign up and use the 30 days, even if you don't keep it. So it helps us out tremendously. But if Amazon is not your thing as well, right to the left of support the shows is the donate button, and we accept PayPal in any denomination. As always, thank you for your likes, your shares, your listens, your support, your shopping through Amazon, your donates through PayPal on gearnetwork.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast.
And with that, we welcome you to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, episode number 121. I am your host, Ryan Wolfe, at WolfeBLTD on Twitter, joined today by a very special guest. The lead singer of the Dead Daisies, John Corabi, joins me on the podcast today to talk about the Dead Daisies, his career in music, Mötley Crüe, and more. Without further ado, because it really takes no introduction, here's our talk with John Corabi.
You're listening to Better Live Than Dead on the Gear Radio Network.
Joining me now on the IndyCard Media Hotline, I am pleased to welcome the lead singer of the Dead Daisies, John Corabi, to the Better Live Than Dead podcast. John, how you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, I got a day off tomorrow. Got an early start to my weekend, and I got to say, if there's any other way I could start my weekend, I can't think of a better way than it would be to talking to you right now.
Obviously, you don't have cable TV, my friend.
Actually, you're right. I have gotten rid of cable TV. We talked a little about that before the interview, but yeah, I try to avoid that stuff, and I'll just go enjoy my life and go play with a couple sticks and some rocks outside and have a good night.
There you go. We need to get back to sticks and rocks and being outside.
I'm cool with that. Now, hey, real quick, starting off, you guys just dropped a new album in April, Burn It Down, with the Dead Daisies, and the acclaim was fantastic. Lots of good words about that, and even an appearance on the Billboard 200's Heat Seekers chart at number 6. How has the response to the album been received by not only yourself, but by the band as a whole?
You know, to be honest with you, like, the shows have been amazing. We just got done doing 6 weeks, 7 weeks or something like that over in the UK and Europe. And the UK was completely sold out before we even got there. Europe, a bunch of the shows were sold out, majority. And then the rest were, if they weren't sold out, they were close. So it's been unbelievable. We're seeing the fans already, like, singing the words back to us. The record has appeared in, God, you know, I know we were in the top 200 or whatever in Billboard, the Heat Seekers chart, but we've actually broken into the top 40 in active rock radio, and not to mention a bunch of other charts all around the world, in the UK, in Germany, in Japan. Like, it's been amazing. So this record is, it's really striking a nerve with a lot of the fans, man. It's been awesome.
Now, I do want to mention that I personally, I really love the record. I going into the record, my expectations, understandably, were a little high. But when I listened to the album the first time through, I couldn't believe. I mean, I could believe it, but song after song after song, it just kept bringing it start to finish. And like I said, I just absolutely love the album. I think you guys did a fantastic job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's, there is a self-serving thing to being a musician, and it's like, actually hearing someone go, I really kind of dig what you did, man. It's cool. It's awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, Burn It Down is the second album that you guys have done with Marty Fredriksson, and I wanted to know kind of behind the scenes, what is it about Marty that keeps you and the Dead Daisies going back to him? I guess, well, for the second time, but what is it about him that keeps you guys together?
You know what? Honestly, if you really go back and look, not all artists, but I think if you go back and you look at a lot of the great ones, like Aerosmith, Queen, Zeppelin was kind of a given. But if you look at guys like Alice Cooper, there's a massive list I could keep going on and on and on about. But a lot of these guys had a person that they could go to and say, this is what we want to accomplish. This is what we want to do. This is how we want this record to sound. And, for example, like the Beatles, they had George Martin. He was there from the beginning to the end. And, he was able to, I just saw a video not that long ago of Paul McCartney goes into the studio and he's like, oh, hey, check this song out that I wrote. And he sits down with a guitar and he plays Eleanor Rigby. And then the video, it ends, and then the video picks back up again, and it's George Martin saying to Paul, I think this is an amazing song. I think if you took this and now didn't use any traditional instruments, what if we did the whole song from top to bottom with cellos and violins only? It would give it a much more somber sound. And you're like, you kind of grasp the idea that there was another genius in the room with the Beatles that was helping them see their ideas through. You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
Aerosmith, in the beginning, they had Jack Douglas. And then they got Clean and Sober, and they used Bruce Fairbairn for their big comeback records. Bruce unfortunately passed away, and then they latched on to Marty Fredriksson. And, I think there's been Bob Ezrin was that to Alice Cooper, and even Kiss to some degree. And then Roy Thomas Baker was that guy for Queen. And there's a ton of them. And I think that we've all respect Marty as a producer, but we all give him that much more respect as a songwriter. So I can go to him with an idea and go, Marty, I'm kind of hearing this like Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, and he's going to get it. He'll get it, and he'll help me see it through. And we love working with him. He's incredibly low key and mellow, and he knows how to deal with all of our personalities and our egos, and he's just super chill, super mellow, but incredibly talented. So I'm personally hoping that Marty is our long-term guy for the next record and the next record and the next record, you know what I mean, for as long as the band's around and recording.
Now, you, speaking of records, you yourself have been putting records out now for a little over 25 years. And over that time, you've had the fantastic opportunity of playing with some very talented musicians. What I wanted to know was how has been playing with a myriad of different musicians, kind of a different genre here, different genre there, allowed you yourself to round yourself into a stronger musician?
Well, I think, it's that thing, like if you take any two guitar players and you put one in a room and you go, listen to this song, and I want you to put a guitar solo on it. They're both probably going to do amazing guitar solos. but they're both going to hear it a different way. You know what I mean? And I think that's the thing, like in the Scream, there was that combination of four guys looking at all the songs that we were writing together at the time. It was those four guys interjecting their viewpoints. You know what I mean? And I sat back and I took something away from the Scream. And then when I joined Mötley, there was those four guys sitting in a room, bashing out ideas, and it was those four guys adding their viewpoints. And it's weird, like with each band, you kind of pick up little, little ideas and you see things from a different angle that you may have not seen before. And so on and so forth. And it's just, like you said, I've been doing this like almost 30 years now. And I've worked with different producers and I saw how they do things. And I've applied it in one way or another to pretty much everything that I've ever done. There's certain things that just stick with you and you go, oh, like, for example, working with Eddie Kramer with the Scream, we were doing a song called I Don't Care. And it's a very Zeppelin-esque riff and it's very repetitive. And our drummer, God rest his soul, was, trying to get that we were laying down the drum track and he was having difficulty with it. And he took a break and went and got a beer, and Eddie came in and he said, "What's the problem?" And he said, "Well, I don't know where I'm at in the song unless John is singing." And Eddie he wasn't stern with him, but he just basically said, "Then you don't know the song." And, our drummer Walt was like, what are you talking about? Like, he goes, "You don't know the song. How many times does that riff go around before John's singing?" And he goes, 8. Okay, so 8. How many of that riff is going during the verse? Well, it's 16. Okay, so then that's 24 of the riff that you, right? Okay, yeah, and then what happens? And then the chorus. And he made Walt sit down at the drums and play and basically count to himself. Like, he basically had to break it down into, here's how many riffs in the beginning before John sings, here's how many there is in the verse, then it goes to the chorus, then it goes back to the riff for a re-intro, then there's a second verse, and he made him mathematically, like, figure it out. And I find myself, years later, I have a solo band with my son playing drums. And we were doing the song Power to the Music. And my son called me. He was at rehearsal with the guys and he was having difficulty playing the song. And he goes, "I can't do it unless you're singing." And I said, "Then you don't know the song." You know what I mean? So I took that thing that I learned 20 some years ago, 26 years ago, 27 years ago, and I'm applying it now to something that I'm doing now. When I explained it to my son, exactly how Eddie explained it to Walt, he got it. He was like, "Oh, okay, I'll break it down in my head." And he sat down and he broke it down, and now he plays the song flawlessly, with or without me being there. He knows it. He sings it to himself while he's playing it. You know what I mean? And it's just, you take these things with all these different musicians and producers and all these people that you've worked with, and you retain certain things and you put it in the Rolodex. And then at some point in your life, you're going to have to open that Rolodex again and you'll sort it out. You'll figure it out.
Now, if you're just joining us, I am obviously Ryan Wolfe here on the Better Live Than Dead podcast with the Dead Daisies lead singer, John Corabi. And now, John, speaking of other groups, other bands you've played in, you had yourself a run with Mötley Crüe back in the early 90s, a much publicized run, I would say. A once-in-a-lifetime experience, judging by your own words in Mötley Crüe's biography, The Dirt. And I know this is a very cliche question, probably been asked and answered 100 times, but I had to ask you. Ultimately, if you know now what you or knew then what you know now, would you jump back on the Mötley Crüe roller coaster and do it all over again, or might you just take a pass and say, thanks for the idea, but I'm good?
Look, I had a great time with those guys. If I could go back in time, I would say to myself, even before I joined the Scream, don't sign anything unless you read it and understand it and have a lawyer look at it. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But, as far as Mötley goes, I had a great time with them. And, I wouldn't change anything about my life at all, because I have this saying, I've got it tattooed on my chest in Italian, and it says, La vida è come dovrebbe essere. And it means life is as it should be. And I wouldn't be the person that I am today if it wasn't for all the ups and downs that I had in my past. I've learned to appreciate the great things because of the not so great things that happened to me before. And so, yeah, if I had the opportunity again to do back then, if I could go back in time and do it again, I would do it again. I'd be a little smarter about contracts and standing up for myself when I need to, but I wouldn't change it. I think the record that we did was awesome, and I think the music that we wrote was awesome. So, and I had a great time. So it's all good.
I was going to say, I was born and raised Mötley Crüe fan, thanks to my parents. I love the 94 record, and that brings me to my next question here. Obviously, as time has gone on, it's I know when it came out, there was obviously, you're not Vince Neil, so fans were quite upset about that, which there's not much anybody can do about that. But the music has withstood the test of time, and if anything, it's become more popular as it's gotten older. And I think that's kind of evident when you did the Mötley 94 solo tour a couple of years ago and had the subsequent record release last February. Now, were you surprised at all by the fan response to those live shows and then to the subsequent live record?
No, no, because the fans, once I started doing those shows, which was, honestly, it was a fluke, and it was really something that I had to be talked into doing. But I understood it. My manager was the one that said, you know what, Mötley's going out on their farewell tour. They haven't done any of the material that you wrote since you joined, since Vince came back. They haven't done any of that material ever. And there was a ton of places. It's kind of common knowledge. The tour we did was an absolute disaster. So there was a lot of places, even in America, that we never played. Never got into Canada. We never went to Europe, Australia, England. There was a ton of places we didn't play. And my manager was basically like, you know what, that record has been a bit of a cult record now, where it's garnishing more and more fans. I think there'd be a lot of people out there that would want to hear this stuff live, what it would have sounded like. And when he said it to me, I was still a little like, I don't know, you know what I mean? I didn't want to appear to be riding Mötley's coattails. But I said, all right, I'll give it a shot. I asked the guys in my band if they would be into it, and they were like, absolutely, absolutely. So we went out and we did some shows, and the attendance was great. The fans seemed, and then, as soon as I started doing the shows, the attendance was great, but more and more people were like, oh my God, I never had a chance to see that. I'd love to do that. I'd love to do it. And then it got to the point where I was doing it in 2014, which was the 20th anniversary. And then it got to be 2015. And I just kind of felt like I didn't want to do it anymore. I basically, because, we were doing shows and the fans, it was being advertised as the Mötley 94 show in its entirety. And inevitably, most nights I would get off stage and I'd go, to do a signing or sit at the bar and take some photos, and more times than not, like a lot of people in the audience would come out and go, well, I was kind of bummed out you didn't do any Screamer or Union. And I'm like, I can't win. You know what I mean? So I just said, I sat down and I said, we're going to record one show in Nashville. We got one shot at this, made sure the band rehearsed. We all rehearsed for like a week. I booked the show. I hired a company to come out and record the thing. And then we talked to Michael Wagner about mixing it and mastering it and all that stuff. And then basically I go, okay, I'm done. From now on, I'm going to do shows with my band. I'm going to play a little bit of the Scream, a little bit of Mötley, a little bit of Union. I'll do some new stuff, and then possibly even do some Dead Daisies stuff. That's it. I'm done. Like, so I did the record, and I figured I gave it to my record label, not even sure if they would want to put it out. I just said, do you guys want this? And they said, absolutely. And they promoted it, and we threw it out there, and the response was awesome. And that record was also on the Heat Seekers and all that other kind of stuff. It actually charted in a bunch of different categories. So I was very pleased, but and now at this point I've got so much material, like I can't do just the Scream or just Union or just Mötley. I got to do a little bit of everything, and hopefully that will appease and appeal to the masses.
Now, I know you just kind of answered the question. I was just going to follow up because coming up in a few months here, I guess under a year now, the album's turning 25. So I figured if I had you here, I'd ask you, I'm assuming the answer is probably not at this point, but are there any plans to do anything special for the 25th anniversary of the album? Or is it, like you said, just kind of, it is what it is and we're moving on?
I think it is what it is, and we're just going to move on. You know what I mean? I love the record. You know what I mean? Now, if somebody says, hey, I'd really like you to do the record, I'll weigh it out and see. But at this point right now, I've told my agent, like, I don't want to do any more of the Mötley 94 shows. I just want to go out and play a little bit of everything. I love the Scream stuff. I love the Union stuff. I've actually been doing acoustic shows and shows with my band where people are starting to request the Dead Daisies. So these are all the songs that I've been involved in. I'm going to play a little bit of everything. And hopefully by next year, when it is the 25th anniversary, I'll be actually out doing some shows and promoting a brand new electric John Corabi solo record. You know what I mean? So I just think it's time, like, and again, I kind of had this argument with my manager back in 2014. And my thing is, you know what? I love the guys in Mötley. I think we wrote some great music together. I'm just trying to look forward. I don't want to keep going back and reliving something that happened, like you said. Next year will be 25 years ago the record came out. It was 27 years ago when I joined the band. So I think it's time to smack my hands together, go, I had a great run, but let's move forward and let's do some new shit. You know what I mean? Let's do some new stuff. And, now, obviously, if somebody came to me and goes, I'll give you $10 million, I'm like, I might rethink it. But at this point, I don't really want to do it. You know what I mean?
I get that, absolutely. And speaking of new stuff, it brings me to my last question for you, John. Going back to the Dead Daisies, you guys just came off a very successful European tour, as you mentioned, and just announced a 24-city tour, which is why we're talking today. We've got to stop. You've got to stop on the tour in my neck of the woods, Rochester, New York, at the Montage Music Hall on August 22nd. Now, the one thing I've noticed and I love about you guys in the Dead Daisies is it doesn't appear like you guys can be stopped at all. The one thing, being a musician myself, kind of on the side, I'm always interested to find out what keeps guys ticking. And for you guys, you've put out, including a live album, you've put out 5 albums in 5 years. You tour a ton. You're always playing shows. What keeps this group, this specific group of musicians, so motivated to not only continue writing new records, but playing those fair amount of shows year after year?
You know what? Honestly, it's just we love doing what we do. And not to sound weird, but I really don't know how to do anything else. And trust me, like, I've got a tree in my backyard that needs to be trimmed down, and my wife is like, "You are not handling a power tool. You need those fingers." So you don't want to see me with power tools or anything like that, or, you know, you wouldn't want to hire me to redecorate your house. Not a good idea. So this is what I do. This is what, not to sound spiritual or, you know, cliched, this is what I was put on earth to do. I think I do it reasonably well. And I'm just going to keep going. You know, and as far as I'm concerned, you know, I know Ozzy has said this and a million other artists before me, but I don't feel like I've written my Sgt. Pepper's yet. So I'm still going.
Well, hey, we look forward to seeing you in Rochester. We look forward to hearing about that electric solo album you mentioned, and maybe we'll see on a show on that tour. But again, John, I do appreciate you taking the time today and joining me.
No worries, buddy. Thanks for having me, and thank you for, you know, keeping the spirit alive.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.
You spring, I spring, we all spring for Teespring. You know what that means? As corny as that was, yes, I know it's corny as hell, we have a t-shirt store. It is up and it is running, and right now we have 8 shirts, but it is growing. The merchandise is growing. Right now we have shirts going from as little as $13 for a TJCMS first t-shirt to $20 for a Gear Network logo t-shirt. All of them available to be delivered right to your front door. You choose your size, you choose your style, and you go. It's as simple as that, and there are plenty more t-shirts to come, but take a look at our Teespring store. If you go to gearnetwork.com, under the Support the Shows banner, and 4 links down is gear merchandise, that will take you directly to our Teespring store, and you can see all of our selection of our current shirts right now, our current merchandise. Thank you again for all of your support and using our links on gearnetwork.com.